The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Plenty of room for you today and some thoughts. We'll hit Nebraska basketball transfer portal shortly with Jacob Padilla. And in hour two, Bill Doleman going to join us along with Brady Oltmans. Spring football thoughts with Nebraska football and the Big Red. And yes, Danny Burke has been found. Danny Burke going to be with us to talk Masters and some weekend sporting with VSiN Sports Network. Let's get things kicked off the right way. Part of the pipeline as Dr. Rob Zatechka will join us now as Dr. Rob, part of the pipeline event with those four other amazing offensive linemen for Nebraska football that helped win the national championship in 1994. That event, of course, the 21st of April at the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista, hailvarsityclub.com, where you go to get more info and get things locked in so you can attend 6 to 9 p.m. the event. Hail Varsity Radio on the road that Friday, the 21st, from 4 to 6. Q&A session with the pipeline members. And let's spend some time with Dr. Rob Zatechka. He joins us to talk Nebraska spring football and, of course, his time with the pipeline. We say to Dr. Rob Zatechka, and can find him on Twitter at Doc Talk Sports, and of course his podcast with Travis Justice, must listen to for all your Husker goodies. Dr. Rob, what did you just do? Stairway to Heaven one too many times, brother. It's good to see you spend time. Thank you.
Well, we were cracking jokes about the karaoke. I got to quit doing that. It's a bad hobby.
But here's my thing. I don't believe anybody, whether they've had 40 Morgans in diet or tequila, no one's going to walk up to you and physically be able to take the microphone away.
Well, and you know I'm a beer guy anyway. So I'm staying away from that hard stuff. But you know, even when my voice is great, you don't want to hear me sing. It's not good at all.
Do you have a karaoke song of choice?
No, definitely not.
It's like, move on, losers, and talk to me about football. I like it. Well, hey, this is going to be so much fun for you and the offensive line. We talked to Joe Wilkes and Aaron Graham last week, and we love that you guys are going to be part in Hail Varsity Club on the 21st for this event, celebrating the pipeline and a chance for Nebraska fans to get out to the Hail Varsity Club in La Vista, be part of this event 6 to 9 p.m. Friday night before the spring game. Wiegert and Stye, of course, part of the party as well, and Dr. Rob with us now, Rob Zatechka. And I want to just spend a moment, and we'll get into the spring session, and we'll also talk just O-line. I know you love doing that, but I'm interested to get your side of things with this group, this build with the unit you've been a part of, the pipeline. Just, you guys had different starting points in your careers, but the end was magnificent.
No, it was kind of an interesting bringing together because you had, myself, Wiegert, Stye, we were all scholarship recruits. Joel Wilkes was kind of like, I'm not sure. It was sort of I guess that era's version of like the preferred walk-on.
Sure.
And he had been told, hey, if you're here, if you're working, you're getting the job done, we're going to have a scholarship for you a year or so in. And they did. Osborne was very good about honoring agreements like that. But Joel was a guy who was basically a scholarship guy out of high school as well too. And then you throw Aaron Graham into the mix, and it was interesting just because Aaron came in the next year, so he was 1 year younger than us. But I think the coaching staff at that time recognized they kind of had something with that group, and so myself, Wiegert, Sty, and Joel were all on kind of scout team together that first year. And then that second year when Aaron came in and the rest of us were redshirt freshmen, they redshirted Aaron that year. But instead of playing on scout team, Aaron actually ran all snaps with the second string offense. So the rest of us were basically the second string offensive line as redshirt freshmen. Now, we all played that year pretty extensively, except Aaron, who was redshirting, but he practiced with us in that unit that entire season. So you had the five of us actually spent 4 years together side by side playing. Wow. Joel and I actually kind of cracked jokes a little bit because we were on the same Shrine Bowl team and we did 3-a-day practices for a couple weeks leading up to it and played side by side there too. So we consider that sort of a pseudo fifth year, but yeah, so you had all five of us were together. By the time the four of us were seniors, Aaron is a fourth year junior, the five of us had been together for 4 seasons. It's kind of a dynamic that you don't see that much. You don't see it happen that often where you've got a full group like that, a full offensive line, to have that kind of continuity of playing with each other for that long a period of time.
Now, Dr. Rob, obviously you guys, you can see it in the film and you just laid it out for us, had a lot of chemistry together on the field, but take me through that off-the-field relationship with the guys. How important was it that you guys were close off the field in addition to on the field?
We always were. I mean, like I said, when you come in as a recruiting class, those are the guys right off the bat. And so we all knew each other. Before we stepped foot on campus, back then it was all like snail mail recruiting newsletters that you had to subscribe to. But I was a junkie for that stuff in high school. So I had read all of that stuff. I knew all of these guys' bios, and we all did that. So you got on campus and everybody kind of knew who each other was. So we were following each other even senior years at high school. But no, we were friends that was the group of guys that you always hung out with. Zach Wiegert and I, we got together summer before our freshman year, and we would hang out. We worked out together. So Zach and I worked out on campus all that summer prior to our freshman season. And so we were lifting weights, we're running together, hanging out on weekends, trying to meet college girls. Never quite worked out the way we hoped, but Zach and I ended up hanging out that whole summer before we even started that first fall camp. And then when the other guys got on campus, like I said, I got to know Joel really well. We played against each other in high school, didn't like each other much then, but Joel and I were on the same Shrine Bowl team. We were on the South team. Zach was on the North. But then you're hanging out together for a few weeks at the Shrine Bowl. And that's how I actually got to know Joel really well, was hanging out at the Shrine Bowl. And that's where he and I became really good friends. And so, it just started from day one. Like I said, you had some of us hanging out together before we even got on campus. So that was kind of a special thing, just having that kind of bond. And now that it's, I feel old saying this, now that it's 30 years later, it's, those are the people that you still hang out with. That group, we still keep in touch. We're trading texts and calls, and you follow each other's kids and what each other's kids are doing with sports and school. And that's it, just that bond never goes away.
Rob Zatechka with us at Hail Varsity Radio. The Pipeline event is going to be the 21st of April at the Hail Varsity Club, hailvarsityclub.com, where you can log on, find out more information. The event starts at 6 to 9. A chance to meet the Pipeline, get some grub, have a drink or two, and also a Q&A with the crew on stage there at the Hale Varsity Club. I think cocktails hour starts at 5:30. I know we'll be on the road 4 to 6 Hale Varsity from the Hale Varsity Club that Friday. So going to be an awesome night for Nebraska fans. The good folks at Pipeline Jerky are a part of this. And Rob, it sounds like you guys, and this doesn't shock Nebraska fans, are giving back or trying to give back with Pipeline Jerky in this new era that is NIL.
Well, and they started kind of a cool thing. I mean, a lot of what they started was designed to kind of create some NIL funding specifically for the offensive line. And that was something that kind of got the five of us thinking, well, maybe we ought to kind of jump in on this and try and see what we can do to help as well, too. So that's kind of where that partnership came in. And that's a great group of guys, which, by the way, if you haven't tried it,
we have.
It's pretty darn good jerky. The beef jerky is outstanding, and I'm probably like curing my own body here because of all the pork jerky that I eat from those guys. It's good stuff. I mean, I eat it myself. So,
yeah.
And I've got several friends. We were supplying it for the West Side High School wrestling coaches.
Oh,
so
wow.
it became the official jerky for the Omaha West Side wrestling coaches. But it's great stuff, and it's a great group of guys, and we really appreciate the fact that somebody stepped up and had the idea of like, hey, let's do something and see if we can't help these guys out. Let's see if we can't help the recruiting process out. Let's see if we can't give back to the university. And that's kind of the thing that was really important. Mm-hmm. That's what we wanted to see happen, was if we could do that and kind of get that going for the university as well too. So it's going to be a fun night. We love that partnership with Pipeline Jerky, and you know what? Hale Varsity is a fun place, so we're going to have a great time that night. If you get a chance to stop out, got questions to ask, want to meet the guys, it'll be a great opportunity to do that.
Man, it's going to be a great time right before the spring game. And Rob, it's been a really insightful spring with Coach Rule and his assistants and a lot of the players after practice. And a big topic this week for us has been the confidence portion of the equation for a successful football team. And Coach Rule has talked a lot about confidence, and their training is purposeful. I mean, it really sounds a lot like how you guys went about your business with the game plan and the coaching and the critiquing, and then the multiple reps, first team through fifth team. If there was a 5-station or 4-station or a third station, you get where I'm going. And your reaction to Rule, and he's also buying stock, and he's supposed to, but he's believable when I hear him talk about the offensive line.
Well, and that was something that was kind of concerning to a lot of us when we were following. You look at the line the past few years, and that was something that was really scary to us in the sense that you haven't seen that development. You saw guys come through, you saw good players come through, but you didn't see those guys really perform at the level you wanted to see down in Lincoln. And then the guys would graduate, and you saw kind of consistently guys would leave the program, go elsewhere. I mean, to the NFL,
mm-hmm.
would get different coaches, a different type of development. All of a sudden, you're seeing guys performing at the NFL level, and you didn't see that level of performance at Nebraska. And that was something that was concerning to us because as former players, you're sitting there going, okay, we know there's talent there. You want to see that talent get developed, and we hadn't seen that yet coming from a lot of these guys. So one of the things that, I mean, obviously there was kind of the quotes about Bryce Benhart and kind of a lot of the flack that he's taken over the last couple of years. But I mean, if you look at the guy, he's got all the tools. He's got the height. He's got the body, he's got the strength, he's got the ability to do it. And at times you've seen some flashes where the guys look really, really good. Again, quite frankly, I thought he looked the best his first year as a starter. And then it's almost been downhill after that. And that's really concerning from a developmental standpoint when you see a guy hit the door and there's almost a regression that you see over the next couple of years. It's encouraging that Rule's come in. He's got some O-line coaching background. You look at what Raiola's saying, you look at what Rule's saying, and they're looking at him and they're saying, hey, we think we can develop this guy. We can turn this guy around. And I think they're kind of using Ben Hart as sort of a little bit of a bell cow for the rest of the offensive line, where if we can get him turned around, I mean, that whole line's going to be able to kind of get these guys coached up and get them developed up to where they're going to go out and hopefully see these guys perform at a level that we have not seen. I'm optimistic because I've seen talent down there in the past. I've seen some of these guys go out and do some great things, but usually it's after they leave Nebraska. I'm excited. I'm hopeful because I want to see that development from these guys while they're at Nebraska. Let's see this offensive line go out and see the level of play that we really want to see from these guys while they're still here.
A few minutes here, Dr. Rob Zatechka with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Pipeline event going on the 21st of April at the Hail Varsity Club. More with Dr. Rob. Jacob Padilla also talks Big Red Husker basketball and the portal on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Dr. Rob Zatechka is with us at Hail Varsity Radio and talking some spring football, the Pipeline event, the 21st of April coming up here right before the spring game. All 5 members of the Pipeline from the 1994 National Championship team. Do you feel good about an identity with Rule and talking about getting that O-line developed and then pairing that with a strong run game? That seems to be where he wants to go, and then you sprinkle in a quarterback that's mobile. I mean, that sounds like that is what this recipe is going to be for their offense.
Well, I hope so. I mean, it's always kind of interesting until you see those guys get out on the field and actually start putting a product out there that's measurable. And, I mean, I don't get in the spring game. I mean, as much as I appreciate the spring game, as much as I appreciate spring football, we've seen some spring games in the past that are incredibly exciting, incredibly entertaining. Doesn't necessarily mean you see that carry over to the fall. So at the bottom line is you're going to have to see that performance. You're going to need to see that product out on the field this fall until you can really put a finger on what the identity is going to be. Now they talk a good game in regards to having that physical identity, and that's something I do hope we see. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust to play physical football. I've seen some teams that, were pass-oriented teams, but they were very physical. I mean, there's guys you can pass block in a physical manner. When I played, I don't know if guys followed pro football back in the 90s, but one of my favorite players was a guy, Tony Baselli. And I played with Tony in an all-star game after college, and then we had I had like a whopping month and a half journeyman stint down in Jacksonville that I played with Tony again. But Tony's a Hall of Famer. He's a great guy. But Tony pass blocking would just brutalize guys. He would just beat guys up while pass blocking. Now, Tony was also like 6'8", 340 pounds, and just an absolute mountain of a human being. But he would destroy guys while pass blocking. So it doesn't have to be this run nonstop. And I love a good run game. I love a fullback. I love 2 tight ends. I love the I formation. And if they get a strong run game incorporated, that's great. But as long as they come out, and if from an identity standpoint, if they get out there and they show a physical brand of football where they're going to get out and just try to dominate teams physically, wear teams out, let's run them up and down the field with a run game. Let's stretch defenses out. Let's gas these guys with a pass game, with a mobile quarterback. However you're going to do it, however you're going to physically dominate somebody, just go physically dominate them. But that's the identity I want to see, is a team that goes out and offensively physically dominates people, whether it's in the run game or the pass game.
Rob Zatechka is with us at Hail Varsity Radio. The Pipeline event coming up the 21st of April at the Hail Varsity Club. And all 5 members of the Pipeline, Wilkes, Wigert, Stye, Graham, and, of course, Dr. Rob Zatechka joining us here on Hail Varsity to get it kicked off on Friday. And we'll be up there 4 to 6 with Hail Varsity. The event 6 to 9 on that Friday. And cocktail hour starts at 5:30. Dr. Rob, I want you to fire up some Alka-Seltzer. Battle that allergy, my man. And Elijah will be ready to arm wrestle you here on the 21st.
Oh, no, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
I got to throw him to it. Dr. Rob's going to roll in and just put his hat backwards like over the top and just start going to town.
I think I break my wrist.
Stallone on everybody.
You will. Can't wait to see you guys again up at the club. Dr. Rob, thanks for your insight and talking some ball with us today.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it on the 21st, too. We're going to have a good time.
Good to hear from Dr. Rob Zatechka. He joked before we started talking to him. He had been, there's no truth to the number of cartons of Marlboro Reds he crushed. He was a proud papa cheering on Florida State rowing. And then you factor in the allergy effect that a lot of us are dealing with here in Nebraska, and you get crazy voice Dr. Rob Zatechka. So good for him persevering. We say hi to Jacob Padilla, joins us here on Hail Varsity. Can watch this portion of the show on the stream, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Can also check out Jacob, 2 different podcasts on the Hurrdat family of podcasts at Jacob Padilla _ Jacob, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good. My voice is working a lot better than Dr. Rob's.
Yes. We had all sorts of advice and medical advice to give the doctor, right? With voice hacks. So,
well, the best thing about a sore throat and your voice sounding like that is hot
whiskey.
toddies. Yeah,
it's whiskey.
That's the best thing you can do. But I mean, I will say he had the intimidation factor down.
Always able to stare us down, and there we go. Jacob, it's uber busy right now with the portal and college basketball, and man, you do such a great job of covering the Big Red. Some of the in-state names I want to go through with you and get your reaction and take, and we'll start with Hunter Salas, and I know that Hoiberg and his top assistant are headed out to Spokane on Easter Sunday. What's your gut tell you? What's your feel with where Nebraska stands in the Hunter race here, the gettability? I know Hunter could and would fit in Lincoln, and I know Hunter could go fit in a lot of spots because he's a really talented guy. What's your read and feel right now for Nebraska? They're doing the right things here, but he's a pretty coveted kid.
Yeah, they're in the mix, clearly. I don't think they're wasting Fred Hoiberg's time having welcoming him and Nate Lenzer out there to Gonzaga on a holiday if he wasn't seriously considering Nebraska there. And I think they're basically trying to sell the Bryce McGowan's role with a better supporting cast. They're selling to him like, hey, you come in here and we're gonna put you in a position to kind of let you go. Whereas Gonzaga at this point, he had to kind of work his way up as a role player. Obviously, came in as a defensive sub most of the time for them during his first 2 years. He's grown into that role, and he played his role at Gonzaga, where They didn't really want him trying to create much on offense because they had Drew Timme. Basically, if you can't get to the rim with one or two dribbles, then give it up and go stand over in the corner was essentially his role on offense there. So that's kind of where Nebraska's, I think, recruiting pitch is. Like, hey, we put a guy into the league. We featured him on this team. Obviously, Hoiberg's NBA connections, and that coupled with what they're trying to sell with an upward trajectory with the program, where they did make progress last year. Where, based on what we saw, the program's in a much better place than it was when Hunter South was coming out of high school, and Nebraska didn't make his list of finalists there. So that's where they're at right now. Ultimately, it's going to come down to kind of I think what he wants and the comfort level with the role that it is waiting for him. And does he want to go somewhere where there's not much competition? Maybe the team isn't going to be competing for Elite Eights, Final Fours or whatever, but he'll have a chance to be more of a feature role. If you wanted to just go to the best team possible, probably would have stuck it out at Gonzaga and tried to kind of crack the starting lineup next year with some of the guys they've got moving on. But so I think he's looking for somewhere where he views it as a better offensive fit for him and more opportunities. So he's going to have to balance just all the various things in terms of, all right, how good is the team? Where do I fit into the hierarchy? A lot of things to consider, but I think taking his time, because your one free transfer here isn't a guy that wants to spend 5 years in college trying to find the right fit. He wants this to be the place where he can go and flourish. So Nebraska's trying to pitch to him that Nebraska can be that place, obviously back in his home state. And we'll see kind of how the meeting goes here after the weekend.
Jacob, one of the things we learned about Husker basketball this season was Fred Hoiberg is willing to go with the defensive mentality with his team to go get some wins. And considering how much that roster is still going to be coming back, I expect that to be a big part of the team's mentality next year. And I want to get your take, your guy who's seen a lot of Hunter Salas. Do you think he'd fit into that defensive mentality? I'm not saying he's not a defender. We saw him defend very well against UCLA in the NCAA tournament, but it's not what he's known for. So I want to get your thoughts on how well he'd fit into that type of system where, you know what, with the skill level around him, defense might be what's focused on first before the offense.
Honestly, I mean, that was the case coming out of high school, but it's basically flipped in college at Gonzaga, where his defense is ahead of his offense right now. The shot hasn't quite developed to the point where I think coaches or he would have liked to see. Still shooting sub 30% from three. Not that he's taken much of them, but it hasn't fallen regularly for him. Defense was the only way that he was going to get minutes over there at Gonzaga. So, and he's always had the tools, obviously the length, the athleticism, and the buy-in, I think, had to be there for him to play at Gonzaga. So he has become more of a defense-first player. I think this move is about kind of unlocking the offense side for him to go with that. So, yeah, I think he would kind of fit into that as a two-way player, assuming that they can get the offense rolling a little bit for him. But he's a guy that can more than hold his own on the defensive end with his length, athleticism, and now that buy-in. Like I said, I think he's a really good fit for what Nebraska wants, depending on kind of how this whole picture comes together. Because obviously they're recruiting a lot of different guys that they got spots to fill. So we don't know yet what the supporting cast is going to look like. We don't know who's going to be the number one option for this team coming back next year. Obviously the Keisei Tominaga thing is still kind of hanging out there. So there's a lot of kind of things up in the air for Nebraska right now, but no matter who else they land, I think you could see Hunter as a good fit for where they're trying to go.
Jacob, real quick, and we're going to keep you on the other side. Jacob Padilla, Husker basketball, the portal. But real quick, two other teams that are big challengers to Nebraska for Hunter, real quick, just off the top of your head.
Well, I mean, Wake Forest, Steve Forbes is flying out either today or tomorrow. I can't remember which. For a visit there. And obviously Nebraska is the other visit at the end of the weekend. So we'll see kind of what else he has planned beyond those two, but he's given them enough attention to at least give them time over the weekend.
All right, more with Jacob Padilla and Nebraska basketball. Hail Varsity continues.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
A few more minutes. Jacob Padilla talking portal and college basketball with us. Hail Varsity Radio at Jacob Padilla _ where you find him. Jacob, a thought with some of the other names from Nebraska that are in the portal. You have Latrell Wrightsell, Josiah Alec, St. Thomas, Jaden Johnson. Tell me what you think. Could Nebraska go get any of these guys? Are they able to transition to the Big Ten from different levels? I know they're all really talented kids. You and I both had a chance to cover over the years.
Charlie Wrightsell would be the one that I'd look out for there in terms of Nebraska being in the mix for. He straight up told, I think, at 24/7 that Nebraska's pitch to him is for him and Hunter to come in and play together. They're trying to sell those guys on playing together at Nebraska. And Charlie is a guy who made a big leap this past year. Had a phenomenal season out there in that conference for Cal State Fullerton. Not a true point guard, kind of more of a two, but he handled the ball, was kind of the lead ball handler for Fullerton this year. Always been a very good 3-point shooter, moves his feet well on defense. 6'3", got good length, good athleticism. So I think, and he's gotten interest from a bunch of high majors since he entered the portal. So he's a guy that I think we'll start to see. He's got some Zooms set up with, I think, 6 different schools, Nebraska included. So he's a guy that you're going to want to continue to watch out for, especially from the list that you mentioned. I think those other guys are probably more mid-major, mid to low major level guys. But yeah, Trelly for sure is a guy who made that leap into the portal, looking to, I think, move up after three years of development at Fullerton. And Alabama, Arkansas, Iowa State, Minnesota, and Ole Miss are the others that he has Zoom set up with. Interesting to see kind of if Creighton makes a push for him now that they've kind of got a better idea of what they're going to need in the backcourt. I don't know that he's a Ryan Nembhard replacement necessarily, but they've got some open spots in that backcourt, and obviously his dad did play there. They've been in contact with his dad, haven't really set up anything directly with Trelly just yet, based on his last interview. So definitely Trelly is a guy who's getting a lot of interest and is a guy that's going to end up at the high major level somewhere this year, heading into his 4th year of college.
Jacob, a couple months ago, Matt Rule made a connection with Georgia transfers with a couple coming over, MJ Sherman and Eric Gilbert. And I was seeing that Cario Aquindo, and I'm not sure if I'm getting the pronunciation right on that. You might have to correct me on that. He's got Nebraska in his top 4. He averaged, I think, 14 points per game in 60 games played at Georgia. What can you tell me about him? Is that interest in Nebraska real?
I mean, real enough to include them in the their top 4. That's not necessarily a guy that I think you heard a ton of buzz about until he released that Final Four. So I guess Nebraska was kind of working behind the scenes there. He second leading scorer for Georgia this year overall. Had a better first season there after JUCO stint where averaged 15 in a game, shot 45% from the field. Not a very good 3-point shooter, 6'4", athletic, kind of more of a driver. So I'd be curious to see. I think Nebraska probably views him as kind of just a bucket getter type of guard, hoping to kind of put some floor spacing around him, maybe more so than he enjoyed at Georgia. Could potentially kind of unlock some more efficient play out of him. Because that's not something they didn't really have that last year. Obviously, Sam Griesel kind of found his way to get to the basket, but much more of a methodical kind of back you down, as opposed to just sheer athleticism, get downhill driver type. So you pair, like if you get Casey back as a floor spacer, you pair him with a guy like him. I think Nebraska could probably see that as something that would work out well for them, kind of balance their offense a little bit. So yeah, that's again another one. That's what we're starting to see now. Is all right. Obviously, Nebraska. You're hearing their names with most of the transfers that you see pop up. Nebraska is on those lists, and I think it's just a matter of them casting a wide net to try to see. All right, which of these kids kind of reciprocate the interest early on, and then we'll focus on those guys and try to get these guys here to Lincoln for a visit, try to get them online for a Zoom visit, whatever it may be, try to strengthen that relationship. And you're looking to make those finalist lists, to get the kids here to Lincoln to show what they've got to offer.
Jacob, I haven't heard much buzz about any targets that could be potential Derek Walker replacements, and he's a tough guy to replace, but a guy that can be a presence down low. Are there any names you can let me know about there? Or do you think Nebraska likes what they have in Blaze, as Blaze really showed some improvement at the end of last season?
No, I definitely think you're going to see them go hard for a big man transfer. I mean, a lot of the names we have seen have been guards, but they do have John Hughley from Pitt coming in for a visit. Obviously, there's some things to figure out there. Obviously, with kind of the way his last season went and his time at Pitt went overall, kind of a feeling out process there. But he's visiting. He's a guy that the staff recruited, so he's familiar with Nebraska. And he is a guy that he's not exactly like Walker, but he is a big body, not necessarily super tall, but big body, physical kid that can score the ball and rebound it. So I think he's the one kind of big man they got coming in for a visit. And then I think you'll see them kind of in the mix with some others here. We'll see which of those they can get to Lincoln, but that's, I think, where they're starting there in terms of they definitely want to find at least one experienced center that can come in and replace what Walker gave them, especially with the injury issues that Kate has dealt with over the last couple of years. You don't want to leave yourself in a place where he's your starting center and you don't have other options. So they're gonna add some kind of big man, possibly even two, if they can get another developmental type of guy, a younger guy to replace Oleg Koyanet. So we'll see. Again, I think they're focusing hard on trying to get that point guard, get that scoring guard, get those guys in, but they'll continue to recruit big men as well because they definitely need one.
Jacob, we'll get you out on this. Jacob Padilla, HailVarsity.com and magazine. Get the digital, get the magazine, HailVarsity.com/offer. Get the subscription today. Give yourself an Easter gift and be happy. Chucky Hepburn, wanted to ask you about if there's any smoke around him looking to get out of Wisconsin, or do you think he's happy up there in Badgerland?
At this point, he hasn't made a move yet. The season's been over for a while. I know that smoke's been out, but you never know where these rumors come from. Is it just pure speculation, or is it like actually people hearing things? At this point, I mean, we're still going to continue to see people go into the portal the next couple of weeks and maybe even beyond, or throughout the extent of the portal window at least. We'll see guys continue to kind of reevaluate where they're at, kind of open their eyes, see what's out there, and then make the decision. But at this point, I guess I'd probably leave towards Chucky staying with the way he closed the season. They've got Tyler Wall coming back for a fifth year. I know they've landed a transfer guard, I believe. So they're trying to kind of upgrade the talent they've got on the roster. They've got some key pieces coming back. So until we see otherwise, I'm just going to assume at this point that Chucky's staying at Wisconsin.
Jacob, have a good weekend. Thanks for your insight, bud. Always appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, good stuff from Jacob Padilla.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good first hour, Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Give us a find on Twitter at Schmidt_radio. At Herbal Essence can watch the show, the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio, KFOR Facebook and Twitter as well. Can get emails in, Chris at HailVarsity.com. Bill Doleman's 10 minutes away. Prada Fairbury going to join us. Brady Oltmans, also some thoughts on spring football. And Danny Burke, the VSiN Sports Network insider, some thoughts. So you look at the Masters going on with some issues and rain and suspensions. Play suspended right now after at least getting his round done. Brooks Koepka is at 12 under. -5 today. John Rahm -9 in second. How about the amateur? Old Sam Bennett at -8. Colin Morikawa at fourth with Victor Hovland. Tiger right there hanging by a thread just in front of that cut line right now. Rory will miss the cut as it stands right now at +5. So pretty tough Masters for Rory after all the hype and the hope for the Rory McIlroy fans out there based on how last year finished. So Tiger got a birdie before, I should say, after the delay was stopped, but now they're back in it. And you've got a tree that fell in Augusta. There were no injuries there, but that
multiple trees actually.
Yeah, I mean you've got just garbage weather that goes through that part of the country this time of year, and you've seen it the last 3 weeks.
And there was an anonymous official from the Masters from Augusta who went on a little earlier this week. I think he was talking with Golf Digest. I can't remember the publication for sure, so apologies whatever publication that was. But he said maybe other courses would have to finish with the weather we have in store this weekend on Monday, but that's not Augusta National. We're going to get it played. Yeah, that's looking like it might not be the case. He was confident that they could take up to 4 inches of rain in a 24-hour period and still keep the tournament going as long as there was no lightning. And, well, I don't know about all that. Augusta is famous for how well they keep the grounds. And, they have contingency plans in place with the rain. They have different pin locations that they can put the holes every single day depending on how much rain they get, and different things they can do with the golf course to not make it play so short to not play so long if you do get a lot of rain. But yeah, I don't know.
Many times I've wanted a chainsaw in my bag to cut said tree down because I have a magnet in my ball that finds all sorts of trees, and you got to punch out or just preemptively yell 4 if you swing away and try and lace one in jail somewhere in the rough. But yeah, fire up the chainsaws at Augusta, man. Can I move this ball, please? I've got, a 200-pound, or should say 200-year-old oak that's obstructing my shot. Might be a reality. But the best thing about Augusta, aside from the beauty and the lore and the tradition, down on that checklist is their concession prices. That is awesome. $4 for a beer, yes, please. Someone's playing cards in the clubhouse right now. Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. The Professor kicks us off next on Hail Varsity.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Hour 2 is here. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And we say hi to the Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, and the Professor, Bill Doleman. Find him on Twitter at Bill Doleman. Billy D, what's shaking, man? How you been? How's the week?
Things are going really well. It's great to be with you guys again, and nice to enjoy the one nice day of the month of April. Because usually Nebraska has like one nice day a month, and today being 70 degrees, that would be it. Great way to go into Easter. And I must say, I'm a little disappointed that you're not wearing that Tennessee Volunteer end zone button down you had on yesterday. I thought maybe that was part of a collection or theme.
Oh, wow. Wow. You are going to get all over the dress shirt I wore to Monday, Thursday service. It wasn't orange. It was red. It had a little baby blue in it. It was a Gary Michaels special. They're all special there.
Straight from the picnic table collection?
Well, it kind of, and I told Elijah, it looked like the old tablecloth at the old watering hole before they facelifted.
It looked orange to me on the stream. So when Elijah was talking about Smuckers, I'm thinking that looks like it ought to have like a blue tick hound walking all over it, and then from the Tennessee end zone.
Was there? It was red.
It was red.
It was red.
He's right on the stream. It did look a little orangey.
It's all right. Kranak looks like he's wearing black or purple or some sort of goth tribute every Saturday morning anyway. So, and as good as cameras and technology are, sometimes we don't quite get the right color. But Bill, a lot to get into, man, and it's been a good week with the updates that spring football's been giving, and of course the Masters got going, although weather's a factor down in Augusta right now. Hoiberg and company are continuing to hammer the portal, and I want to start with football and just Nebraska and the offensive line topic, Bill. With Coach Rule and the narrative that's been in existence with the offensive line underperforming statistically, not really having an identity or not being on the same page with a previous offensive coordinator. Let's throw it first, second, and third down versus maybe establishing the run game. Do you think part of Rule's magic, not just the development that's taking place, but also talking the guys up? Do you think that's part of this too, to get that confidence level where they need to be? Because I don't think he's wrong. As much as confidence has been talked about this whole spring, that's a monster component to what's ailed Nebraska.
The past couple of years, folks have always said Nebraska is the best off the bus, and in part because those offensive linemen have been, pretty hulking. Mm-hmm. There's some good-sized dudes up there, but probably no group has gotten more criticized over the past couple of years, has been for looking good off the bus and not looking so good, on the field. Now, injuries have had a large part to do with that. I think there have been some significant ones. And, of course, the Nori being ineligible last year was a real setback, I think, for last year's offensive line. So they were really playing two potential starters short last year, which, A, hurts the starting line and hurts the depth, right? Now, if they can keep those guys healthy, then that's obviously the most important thing. But what Rule, the way he is talking about that group, especially this week, I think it's given people a lot of pause. Now, remember, when Rule was hired, like the number one thing that Trev Albert said was, we wanted to hire a developmental coach. Well, there is no greater area for Matt Rule and his staff. And of course, bringing back Donovan Raiola, there's no greater area on that staff that I can see where the label of a developmental coach being more apparent, we'll see it, is on the offensive line. So if that's what he was hired to do, he's got, would appear he has guys to work with. He's gone out of his way, or he went out of his way the other day to praise Ben Hart, calling him an all-conference and NFL potential player. And I think a lot of people who posted things on Twitter with some of his misplays were probably taken aback by that. But if they're going to develop, that's the place to do it, and that's the place to prove it. I've got one guy in particular in my class that I certainly hope will be eligible, but if he continues to tell me that LeBron James is greater than Michael Jordan, his eligibility might well be in doubt. So,
wow. Bill Doleman's holding the offensive line
Just
hostage.
Don't walk into my classroom with a Cubs shirt or telling me LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan.
Wow. So if the offensive line sputters this year, the part of the finger pointing, I'm kidding, the pride of Fairbury, you're gonna you also have high standards, it sounds like, right? Jordan and no Cubs
high
love.
Standards? You don't even have to have high standards to say Michael Jordan's the GOAT. and Kobe's second.
Oh, wow. I don't know about all that.
My 1-2 is probably Jordan and then Bird.
I'm not going to fight with you on that. You got a C. You would probably get a C in my class for that.
That's good for me. You've known me 25 years.
Yeah.
C is for cookie. It's good enough for me. You know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold my tongue over here. I will not give you my top 5. I'm not going to do it.
It's all right, and it's a generational thing. It's okay.
It 100%
different.
is.
It's different.
Let's
be honest.
That doesn't matter.
If Wilt Chamberlain's off-the-field stats are true, he's number 1.
Which Calvin Murphy told me.
Finish.
I'm going to end it right there.
No. All Murph had to do was just look at you and nod his head.
I said that to Calvin one day. We were talking about, the great players in the NBA because Calvin is one of them, and we were doing Houston Rocket shows. And so he's telling me all the great stories about the great guys who, built the NBA, the toughest guys who ever played in the NBA. And I said, all right, come on. You and Wilt were buddies. Is it true? And he just kind of looks at me and says, what do you think?
I think the guy that has his own...
It was clearly a rhetorical question too.
Yeah,
and we are clearly talking here about whether or not he scored 100 points in a game. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm talking about his own room at the Playboy Mansion. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
I knew what we were talking about. I was trying to keep
it above board
about
on Good
tangent.
Friday.
We just went from the offensive line to Wilt Chamberlain's exploits.
Hey, we cover it all. I like it. So yeah, I mean, some Nebraska fans, deservedly so, are I'll believe it when I see it with this offensive line. But I think the thing that you can be excited about with the O-line and Rule, he's really not into the business of blowing smoke. I think he's got to talk up these guys because they've got to have they have to have a can-do belief, right? And I don't want to get all psychobabble here, but that's the hurdle. There's a certain way to practice. He's having them do that. That will get them better. And I think he needs that offensive line to believe him when he says you guys can be really pretty good. And I think he's planting those seeds, and they'll put the work in here this spring and move forward. The mentality is there, and he's going to have to figure it out whether Ben Hart can take advantage of the opportunity and the work. You've heard about Nuri. You've heard about Scott. Piper looks different. A guy we don't know a ton about, though, right now, I know he spoke with us a week ago, is Turner Corcoran. Where's he at? What's he battling for? Is he a tackle on the right side with Big Teddy on the left, and is your swing tackle going to be Ben Hart? You've talked Ben Hart up about being all conference, so is he your right tackle? Do you rotate Piper with Turner at left guard? If Nuri gets the right guard spot, do you move Turner to center and let him grind for a year behind Scott if Scott wins that job? I mean, there's 7 or 8 bodies that have playing time on top of the walk-ons, Bill, that Rule really likes.
Well, he's how many times has he mentioned Gunnar Gatula in spring ball already? And a kid that has been learning left tackle. I think it's pretty clear that he is a lineman at heart. He talks about loving the offensive line and the defensive line, and I think he knows the importance of not just developing them physically, but also developing them mentally. You had Dr. Rob on earlier. If you go back in time to the pipeline, there was nobody. Well, I shouldn't say that because Tommy Frazier was pretty self-assured, but that group of offensive linemen. Oh my gosh, you talk about confident and.
Uyghur had enough for 7 teams.
Yeah, those guys were so. I don't think it's true. They would tell people we're going to do this, and then they'd go do it. And that confidence that the starting 5 had through the early '90s, that was rubbed off on those who took their places, right? Over a 3, 4, 5 year period. And, obviously things have kind of fallen off. If he can develop some confidence in those guys, camaraderie like those guys had, they might be better. They might just be better because they're more mentally prepared. I think they've been beaten down. And I do think that the injuries that they had the last couple of years have really hurt. Prohaska with, knee injuries in 2 seasons, that's going to wear on you a little bit. And, maybe he feels a little bit reborn, and Ben Hart being talked up, that's got to help, But that's the area where Matt Rule will prove how good of a developmental coach he is quickly. Will be on the offensive line, and how good the decision to retain Donovan Raiola, which I think was a good one, whether they get the kid or not.
Bill, is that development of the offensive line what's going to differentiate between having a Bo Pelini type year one or having a Mike Riley type year one? Where, Mike Riley's year one at Nebraska wasn't bad, but I think everyone kind of knew that Nebraska was a what do you want to call it? Not a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the complete opposite of what I want to say. That they weren't as good as their record would appear early in the season, as compared to Bo Pelini, where that team really took the Big 12 by storm and was looked a couple of years away from a Big 12 championship. Is the offensive line the difference in what Nebraska can be in year one under Matt Rule? Because I think they have a lot of pieces in a lot of places.
Yeah, probably. But the other area that I think we'll see is if that offensive line hasn't quite developed the way they want, we're going to find out how well that staff can adapt to whatever it does have. If this coaching staff is, all on the same page and iron is sharpening iron, and they've got to, figure out, okay, maybe we aren't as far along with this group as we thought we were, but we do believe in our abilities as coaches to develop this team in a different way. If they come out wanting to run the ball, 50 times a game, and that's not working, what's plan B? What's page 2 in the playbook? And that will also, give us an idea of what this coaching staff is all about. Can they develop the line? And if it's not where they want it to be, do they have other options? And I'm not saying the option. Do they have other areas in which that offense can adapt to whatever the strengths are going to turn out to be, and in order to protect the quarterback, in order to give him enough time to deliver the football, enough to get first down on 3rd and 3 by running it, the offensive line is the key to every football team, but I think we're going to know more about the coaching staff on how that line develops than any other area on the team.
Bill Doleman's with us. It's Hail Varsity Radio at Bill Doleman on Twitter. It's where you can follow him, spending some time recapping some of the talking points this week as Nebraska has a little bit of a breather before they get back at it on Monday. And this quarterback race is fascinating. You want to jump in real quick?
Yeah, one more. And just so we didn't put a bow on football and talk about something else, I'm going to bet all your money that the first play from scrimmage in the spring game is a fullback trap.
Sure. Now, who's the fullback?
It's going to be an homage to the past, to the great position that Nebraska fans love and are endeared to, and to honor Frank Solich, who will be there. They're going to put somebody out there in the fullback spot, run it out of the eye, hand it off, and let number 34 or 45 or whatever, 26, who are some of the great fullbacks of Nebraska history,
I think
and run a fullback trap up the middle.
Makovic, he still looks like Joel, and he's going to be like, of course I can. Joel still looks like he can play.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's going to be. I think that's going to be Satterfield and Rules tip of the cap to the Husker fans, and they'll run a fullback trap. If not, they ought to. Just call me.
No, that's done. We will get your people in touch with Rules people and say, hey, Frank's here. Maybe you should give it to the fullback. I love it. Bill, what do you got coming up this weekend, man? What are the plans, bud?
Well, we're going to celebrate Jesus. It's Easter, so a special holiday. But, like most people who are ready to close the book on football and close the book on basketball and just sit down and watch a bunch of rich guys play golf for the next couple of days, that seems to be on the radar. But I do think it's kind of fun this year, right? You've got a little bit of that Live PGA rivalry that I think will have people tuning in with a little more interest on Sunday, especially if Koepka is still out there in front. And if Phil makes a charge like he says he's ready to do, that would be pretty interesting on Sunday afternoon.
That'll be good. I'll give you a shot. We'll go swing the sticks this weekend, bud.
All right, brother. Happy Easter to all.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Hail Varsity, presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Big thanks to Bill Doleman. Brady Oltmans is in. You can watch this interview on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Can also see Brady and Aaron Sorensen with a lot of the post-press conference or post-media availability comments. You are getting comfortable with that mic. And you and Aaron do such a great job of recapping the day's news. Pretty soon I'm going to see Brady behind an anchor desk, man. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, that last one, that last one went off the rails after Thursday's practice. You could tell a little bit of senioritis with the long Easter break coming up was happening.
A little bit. Question is, are you and I going to keep a bar open 30 minutes past closing time this weekend?
Well, time will tell.
Saturday night, we're at a really well-appreciated spot, and Brady and I just solving the world's problems. It was wonderful. And I look at the bartender, sweet gal, and I'm like, how late are you guys open? Well, sir, we closed 20 minutes ago.
I know based on that line right there, I already know what place you guys are talking about because I've had it happen to me there too. I think I know.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to call you and bring our old buddy Jay Moore down with us and find a corner table by Butch and Sundance. The actors. So let's get into football here. And we talked a lot of O-line with Doleman a little bit ago. Brady, I'm curious here with where you're at on the quarterback situation. We know who's available. We know who can throw blocks on safeties in run plays with the video that was put out by Husker Football. Nice work there by Heinrich. But are you counting out Casey Thompson's ability to run? I know he's out because of the shoulder. We know what type of pocket wizard he is for Nebraska and at Texas, but I know who his papa is as well. And as nice as Sims is and as nice as the quarterback room seems to be progressing, at least getting the reps to do it, Casey Thompson's a dude that is an athlete, and he's really never had a chance to be allowed to run into college stops.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, Heinrich, even, Chubba and Richard Torres, the guys below, they're getting the reps right now. With Logan Smothers and Casey being out, those guys are obviously going to catch a lot of the shine. They're going to get a lot of the talk, and rightfully so. I mean, Heinrich impressed the staff during winter workouts with his pure speed and athleticism, and I think Jeff offers a lot of dynamic ability at quarterback. I think that's partially why they were so happy to get him through the portal from Georgia Tech, and he offers you kind of that pure running ability that the coaching staff is high on. I think both Satterfield and Rule have talked about it after spring practices, and after that scrimmage, they glowed about how the quarterback run game exploded, made for big plays. But having said that, I'll never count Casey Thompson out. I mean, he's a savvy quarterback who is smart. He's able to comprehend a lot. He's still there throwing and listening to coaches. He's not completely out of the game. While he may not be in a green jersey and at full speed with the rest of the team, he's taken all of this in, and he's a gamer. And if he wants to give it a go, he's going to make it difficult for the coaching staff to choose somebody other than him. So I think Jeff, just by the sheer reps, might have the lean forward on that horse race. I'm still not counting Casey out.
And whenever you go watch Jeff Sims highlights at Georgia Tech, the athleticism jumps off the page at you. He's got wheels. He reminds me of almost an Adrian Martinez, but with a bigger arm, maybe a little less accurate, and maybe a little bit more athletic. That's kind of my read on him. Seems like a very willing runner. And
it's a good comp. That's a great comp if you're Nebraska. I mean, is with Adrian, I mean, look at how good he was and look how good he had to be.
Well, the difference is that that both of those guys, Sims and Adrian, played behind some shaky offensive lines. I think Adrian handled the shaky offensive line aspect better than Jeff Sims. But I've been looking into it because, as we've kind of been talking about here, it sounds like Jeff Sims has been coming on strong as of the past week or two.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that the coaching staff wants to do with him is make him comfortable. I mean, that was one of the issues he had at Georgia Tech, is he injury logged because, much like Casey last year, he was under duress and moving around. One of the things they want to do is get Casey, Jeff, all of the quarterbacks comfortable in the pocket again. They want to kind of reset everything, keep them comfy, and get that confidence built up. They want to build confidence around the entire team. I think Rule mentioned that last Saturday or Thursday, that they just want to have confidence. They want to build guys up a little bit more because that's how they become elite, as he likes to use that word. So I see that most certainly with the way that Jeff can run. I mean, he runs very well. He runs at a high caliber. He's scrambling, elongating plays, and he's got a big cannon of an arm. But I don't know, you almost have to see how that's going to work out, how close to that potential he's working, and then at what point Casey makes a run at him, or even Heinrich. I mean, don't count him out. We were talking about maybe doing a position change with him because the coaching staff doesn't want to lose that athleticism on the field. He's showing up and making plays. They're making it really difficult on the coaching staff to decide who's going to be where.
Brady, while we're talking quarterbacks here, what's your reaction? Heinrich Harburg laying out Isaac Gifford on the goal line from the video the football team released last night.
Man, I tell you what, you look at him after practice and he's just built. That's why kind of maybe they'll move him to tight end thing was like, maybe that would work because he's stacked and he's built and he's not afraid to deliver a hit. But I also think that kind of goes back to the work that they did in the off season and the winter workouts. And then now in the spring of they want to take everything down to zero and then get the fundamentals built back up to get guys motivated to gear up to be just athletic football players. And then, at the end of spring into the summer, that's when the sheer football and at certain positions is going to happen.
I'm fascinated to see kind of the end audition here this spring with Priddy and with Harburg. I mean, we've seen Harburg, not a great completion percentage, but a couple of springs ago, put a drive together. And you've got Priddy that has all sorts of tools and talent. He was thrown into some pretty tough situations a year ago where when he was in, and then I look at the Minnesota game, how it started versus how it ended, where there was the brutal dry spell of, after the script was done, what were you going to ask him to do? I just hope if you're Nebraska, you can find a way to keep both and develop both. As there's a lot of time left for both the kids to be college quarterbacks, and that's just not the way of the world, though, is it, Brady, with that position?
Well, most of the time it's not. I mean, guys want to go where they're going to play, but they also, if they see a potential development, that's where they want to go. And with Chubba, it goes back to the comfort. I mean, he threw well in practice. That's what we heard during the whole entire season, that Chubba was throwing well in practice, and he steps up in the game, and it looked like a classic case of the yips. You get up onto a big stage, and he's just not able to perform at that level. At Michigan, when he came in, he kind of seemed to get his feet under him a little bit.
They let him run it. I mean, he was running for his life, but at least he kind of got hit in the mouth and settled him in.
Yeah, and to the point where literally the same drive that he got hurt on, he was starting to look like, okay, they're going to get some points out of this, and Chubba's getting some confidence. And then as soon as he does that, he makes a big run, but he's indecisive when he wants to go down, and then high ankle sprain, and then that's that. It's going back to basics of building up that confidence, getting the offensive line on the same page with the entire offense so that, they're not kind of hodgepodge together. They're working back down to basics, getting their bend, their mobility, both horizontal, vertical, how they want to run and block and pass and run protections. I mean, that's really how it is, to the point where come fall, they're able to execute in a formulated way that benefits everyone.
Brady Oltmans with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine staff writer. Great job of recruiting coverage and football thoughts as well at HailVarsity.com/offer to get your subscription. for the digital and print. I want to talk recruiting here before we say goodbye. It just feels like things are moving a certain direction for Dylan Raiola, and we've said that for a week. You've got Dante Reno that's got history with Satterfield. He's a commit to South Carolina. A thought on Reno, Brady, and then also, and I just saw Danny Kalen post. He's working with his quarterback coach, and he's got his Missouri gear on. Could Nebraska come back to him if they want to and say, okay, this is where we're going? We have a potential kid in Dante that we're going to try and recruit, but we also really like you. And you know what? We put you on hold. We shouldn't have. How about you consider Nebraska again? I mean, is it too late on Kalen, even though he's verbal to Missouri?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think, I don't know his reaction to that. I think that this Nebraska coaching staff right now is all in on Dylan Raiola. You know, they're taking it easy or everything that they can right now, but you don't send 9 assistants to Arizona without being all in on him. You don't offer few kids or a few other quarterbacks in that class without being all in on him. The Reno thing is interesting. They haven't offered him yet, but there's too many ties. There's too many like little blips on the radar to make you kind of just wholesale sweep it under the rug. And Rule has no issue going after guys who are committed. You know, he'll go after a kid and recruit them until they sign. With Danny, I think that they would try to. I think this coaching staff, if given the decision from Raiola that he doesn't sign or doesn't commit to Nebraska, I should say, I think they'd give Danny a shot and say, hey, look, like stay home. You know, we can do X, Y, and Z for you. No shame on Missouri, but here's our plan for you. If you like theirs better, go ahead, but here's what we can do. And you can stay home. You can be the homegrown Husker quarterback to make it happen. And then at that point, it's up to Danny if that's what he sees and wants to do. I know that he enjoyed his time at Nebraska whenever he visited, and he enjoys the staff there. But I also know that he responded really well with Drinkwitz and the Missouri staff, and they made him feel really comfortable on his visits there.
Brady, quickly, have you seen the video that's out today of Matt Rule and Dylan Raiola going at it in ping pong?
No, is that out?
Brandon Baker put it up on his Twitter page. There's a video of Matt Rule. He looks like he's taking it easy early, and then he really turns it on. His serve is wicked.
Oh, man. Well, and that's kind of the word on the street is if it's ping pong or pickleball or anything, Matt Rule is, I don't want to say
take
shark,
your money.
But he's the equivalent of whatever a pickleball shark is these days. I know ping pong's probably the same way.
Brady, we'll see you this weekend. Take care. Thanks for the time today, man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
There he is, Brady Oltmans, HailVarsity.com and magazine. Thoughts on the Masters? Danny Burke on the way.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Thanks for hanging out. Hail Varsity continues, presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And we welcome in the pride of Chicago. NBC Sports was where Bill Doleman worked for a long time, still does for Olympics.
Good save.
We're gonna go to the Audible and say VSiN Sports Network. I got confused because Danny's boss, Brent Musburger, a long time at CBS. As I try and talk my way out of this, why don't we just bring in Danny Burke, pride of Chicago, VSiN Sports Network, at Danny Burke 5 on Twitter. Danny, I hit it into the rough there, but I saved for par. How are you?
We'll take it. A little up and down action, not too shabby. I'm doing good. Apologies for yesterday, but glad we could reconvene on this evening. But, yeah, a little bummed that the Masters got postponed today, but I guess that was to be expected. So we'll have to make up for it in the meantime in other ways.
So as you went into this Masters, Danny, what's your feel? Are you active with wagering on golf? Tell me your analysis there. I mean, it's really unpredictable with weather, and the Masters is kind of an ass kicker anyway. I mean, it's such a tough ask.
Yeah, I really don't bet that much golf. As you know, I play it religiously, but don't bet it necessarily. I only really do it for the majors, and especially the Masters, like pretty much everybody. But, as far as I know, collecting information from a lot of the great guys who do work and cover just what people in general, I mean, the biggest advantage that most often these winners have is familiarity with the course, right? You want to see how many top 20s, top 10s, top 5s, and then obviously outright wins that they have at Augusta. And that's how you can kind of filter it in with who you want to bet. Now, as fun as it is to win the outrights, certainly that's incredibly hard. So that's where it comes into play when you can do those top 10s, those top 20s, and still seek out a little bit of value. I only bet 2 guys for the outright win. I bet Cam Smith and I bet Jordan Spieth. Spieth, honestly, is just an obligatory bet, like every Masters, just because I've always been a Spieth guy, and I feel like there's always a group of people who do the same thing. And he does fall in line, of course, with the familiarity and having pretty constant success at Augusta. So I did those guys for a couple of outrights. I did a bunch of top 20s. I also had Cam Smith top 20. By the way, Cam Smith had like 35 or 33 to, no, I guess it was 35 to 1. Then I got him plus 105 for top 20. Spieth was like 18 to 1 to win it all. I also did, I had Sung J M at top 20. I did Matsuyama top 20, and then Justin Rose at top 20. And I might have had one other person, maybe Day, that I also had. And he was looking good today, and then he kind of started slacking toward the end. But, look, I haven't done any in-game betting with the Masters. I was going to wait till the next round so I could get a little bit better idea and see, even though knowing you didn't get as much value as you did before the tournament, of course, you still have a good idea of who you can narrow it down to. So, obviously, Brooksy is looking great. I completely understand why anybody would want to back him right now. I mean, a guy who fits the bill for having familiarity here, and he's built himself a comfortable lead. And you got to think now with the weather conditions, if he can at least manage it, that gives him a huge advantage in this competition right now. And, Rob arguably could have caught up, and the amateur kid Bennett's been the story of the tournament. So that's what I'm sweating out right now, guys, but kind of waiting, like I said, to see if any live opportunities are going to present themselves the next couple of days.
Yeah, whenever you talk about the amateur, Danny, did you have any action on him getting a top 10 finish? I feel like the odds are probably pretty good there.
I did not, but I sure wish I did. Yeah, I actually don't know what they were. I'm sure people have posted about it, but no, I didn't have anything involved with him, and obviously, someone who doesn't follow it that closely had no idea who the kid was. And the one time, I followed an amateur was when Doug Ginn was there because he went to the high school next to mine. He was at the Masters a couple of years ago and actually did pretty well. So that's the only amateur that I've ever followed, but now we all got a new one that we're keeping an eye on in Bennett, so that's pretty exciting at least.
Danny, any locks or likes this weekend for the Major League Baseball schedule or NHL?
Yeah, NHL, we're going to have a big card tomorrow. So I haven't fully handicapped it yet, but again, when you're looking at these games, you got to filter in who has what to play for. For example, the Pittsburgh Penguins on the road against the Red Wings, the Penguins vying for a playoff spot. I don't believe the Sabres are technically eliminated, and they take on the Hurricanes, and Carolina really can't do anything with their seeding. So it's a game that Buffalo should win, and you're getting them at an underdog price. Not should win, but need to win more so. Golden Knights and Stars, both those teams are playing for positioning. Oilers fighting for that number 1 seed against the bad team in the Sharks. They're a big favorite, over $2.50 favorite. Some other games that are worth note, the Predators and the Jets, both teams also fighting for that playoff spot. Probably going to be a lower scoring game because it's a playoff-like atmosphere. Saros, the goalie for the Predators, is an absolute stud, and Hellebuck is a really good goalie for the Jets. Winnipeg tends to play better at home. They don't really have a dominant offense. They lean more heavily on their defense, so that's probably going to be lower scoring. Devils and Bruins is fascinating because the Bruins have everything locked up, but they're still saying we're going to keep playing hard till the end. So it's going to be an entertaining game at night, but not one that I want to get invested in. And then Flames and Canucks, Flames vying for their playoff spot too, and Avalanche and Kings at the end, they're both fighting for seeding as well. So Colorado a slight favorite, maybe some value on Los Angeles after their tough loss last night.
Danny, do you have any interest in UFC this weekend? I know there's a good UFC 287 fight card coming up. Jorge Masvidal and Gilbert Burns, along with Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya, the co-main event. You looking into that at all?
So I love betting the UFC, but I can't say I follow it like leading up into it. I always take a lot of insight and advice from friends and then colleagues at VSiN. And it seems like the people that I've talked to are kind of wanting to fade Adesanya in this spot again. And then all I know about Masvidal is he said he's going to break the sports books in Vegas. So you can take that as much as you want for people looking to back him. But I definitely will be wagering on it tomorrow, Elijah. I just haven't done anything yet and kind of going to wait to see where these lines filter out and do a little bit more research on it. But I'm certainly looking forward to the event.
I will say from my experience watching UFC and following it, Alex Pereira, I think, is really bad odds. The odds are set poorly. He's the underdog against Adesanya, despite having beat him 4 consecutive times. So that's an interesting one. And then you also have Gilbert Burns, a big favorite over Masvidal. I don't think Masvidal is going to do anything there. So that's what I'm looking at, Danny, and I'm glad we're somewhat in agreement here.
Yeah, I mean, Masvidal just gets attention just because of, like, his image, right? It's more of a brand name with him. And I feel like Adesanya, people recognize the name there, too, and that's probably a little part of why it's priced where it is, and you think, oh, he's got to be due. But, yeah, Masvidal obviously known for the flying knee kick there and really hasn't done too much greatness since then, so I could see fading Masvidal, despite what he says he's going to be doing to the sports books.
Danny, Major League Baseball here, about 30 seconds. A matchup you like?
Yeah, so for tomorrow, tonight I was looking at, I think there was a couple games that hasn't gone off yet. I didn't mind the over in the Angels game tonight. I would take a look at that, the Angels and the Blue Jays. And then tomorrow, haven't gone full handicap in there yet, but I'm definitely going to be feeling a lot more comfortable the second game with these new series. So I'll be tweeting it out for anybody who's interested. I've been tweeting out my plays. So once those are official, I'll be sending those out. But tonight would lean over for Angels and Blue Jays.
Love it. Danny, have a good weekend, man. Thanks for the time today.
Yeah, you got it, fellas. Take care.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio, weekend edition tomorrow, 7:30. Mark Cranack, myself, Elijah Herbel. Check it out and can stream it to the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter feed at HVarsity Radio, and KFOR Sports and Facebook. Always you can watch, communicate, and check in on the show. We'll have a chance to check in with Brandon Vogel, the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp. So that on the docket tomorrow. A little baseball for me, a little baseball for you. And then we can watch a little, maybe, Masters Sunday. Reminder to get buckled up, hands on the wheel, eyes and mind straight ahead. The driver has one job, that's to drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. I want to go see that movie Air. I know it's gotten like incredible reviews. Matt Damon's all good. Affleck's all right. Don't hate on him. I just not as much of a Affleck guy as I am Matt Damon. I know Chris Tucker's back in action, and I fancy myself a big Jordan guy like a lot of us.
Well, get this. So a buddy of mine who has been posting movie reviews online for like years now, never really thought anybody read them, gets a call on Wednesday morning from MGM, Metro Golden Mayer. They give him a call and say, hey, we have some leftover press passes for our movie screening tonight in Lincoln. Would you like to go and leave us a review? And he goes, oh, yeah, I'd love to. And then an hour after that, he gets a call from Ben Affleck, Matt Damon,
Seriously?
And Chris Tucker.
Did he save their number?
No, it was from like one of the Metro Golden Mayer lines. They just called him. They were like on a little in the same room. I'm sure calling a whole bunch of people across the country to saying, hey man, hope you enjoy the movie tonight. I'm sure trying to get themselves some positive reviews, the early accounts. But yeah, you got a call from those three on Wednesday morning. Then he went off and watched the screening of Air and his favorite pair of Air Jordans as they told him to.
I don't have Jordans, and I shouldn't. I'm 45 years old now. There's some of us that can rock them. My brother has all the Air Jordans. Pretty sure he's got a pair on right now as he's making his way home from Dallas. Mm-hmm. And my favorites, I think, are probably the Jordan 3s or the 4s. Those are the two. And then
I love the Jordan 4s.
Is that the one? And I'm sorry to not know completely, but that's the one with the gel on the bottom with the Jumpman, right? And the reflective tongue.
Yep. And it's kind of got the thicker things around your ankle balls, kind of, if you know what I'm talking
Yeah, a
about.
little bit.
And like the little triangle thing kind of on the side. I'm describing it
I think
horribly.
those are threes.
Those threes?
Yeah. The threes in the year after, and I go by the year he wore them. So this was 89 when they beat Elo on the shot. In the first year, they lost to the Pistons. The Jordans, I really do like. I like the ones that he wore, the kind of the tuxedo, black on the toe of them. They were really shiny. I think those are 11s. Those are really cool. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, that was like the goal for a lot of us in the neighborhood, mow enough yards during the summer to save up for either the new Air Jordans or buy last year's model at an outlet store and then rock them. Those are cool.
I googled some pictures to make sure we're all correct here. I think you have your 3 and your 4 flipped.
Okay.
I think. But the 4s are my favorite.
You're right on. Those are good. All right, talk to you tomorrow. Have a great holiday weekend. Be back with you at 7:30 with Hail Varsity. Thanks.